Welcome to Centered Presents The Future of Health. Join me, Christina Waleka, along with Dr. Molly Brown, as we dive deep into the world of brain-based wellness.
In each episode, we will explore cutting-edge insights and practical techniques that empower you to achieve optimal health and super high-energy living.
Tune in and start your journey toward a healthier, more vibrant you. Welcome to Centered Presents The Future of Health, and on today's episode, we are lucky enough to be joined by Dr. Gabriel Cousens. And Dr. Cousens, if you wouldn't mind talking to us a little bit about how you go from a medical degree at Columbia University to kind of focusing on nutrition and spirituality.
Easy.
Not for everyone.
It was what was clearly missing in medical school. And if you have any tendencies towards spiritual life, and I just had, I'm going to say vague tendencies. I was always involved spiritually. I had playing American football. I had many kind of samadhi experiences in the middle of the football game. So I had things that were happening for me, okay, that way. So after I finished my internship in San Francisco at Mount Zion Hospital, I began to get, because you're in California, there's a little bit more spiritual interest, but still nothing quite happened. Then I took my psychiatry residency, because I'm also a psychiatrist. And then I came back to California and I saw the way they had organized thinking was not working. It didn't make any sense. So I said, I really need to work with people first. I need to clear their biological things. They may have hypoglycemia, diabetes, all kinds of low thyroid. And you're treating depression, but actually it's a low thyroid problem, okay? But from there, it took me into more about spiritual life. It was like, it became holistic because that was the only thing that made any sense. Think that way. And so literally that's how I saw it. It's like, this is obvious. The people who have a spiritual life and they aren't really connected to themselves and to the earth and to the environment. It's like, how can you really be healthy?
Right.
So you saw that helping people a lot more than the psychiatry route.
Yeah, I didn't, I did couple therapy, I did family therapy, saw individuals. I developed my own kind of techniques for doing things, but they needed to be with the physical, but they need to be with the spiritual. You had to have that inner connection. And in the process, as it unfolded, then I also went to India, and I was on and off in India for 7 years because I couldn't get what I would say, a good base of spirituality in America in the way it would work for me. So I went with Swami Muktananda, and really 7 years you get to learn a lot. A lot goes on, and I won't go into the whole Indian system, but it was very good. And then I brought it back into the Western world, and kind of integrated that and saw that if people aren't spiritually connected, it's really hard to get optimal health. You can get functional health. You can treat their diabetes, but even my diabetes program, we had to get people into spiritual health. They couldn't do that. They couldn't love themselves enough to want to heal themselves.
That's what we're talking about, is that shift in that people want to be healthy, and they don't want to just blindly follow what anyone tells them, right? Like, find out for yourself and try different things and see what makes you feel your very best. And, I think like I've learned a lot from you over the 20 years I've known you, but a couple of the main things are that I deeply know firsthand experience that the body can heal given the right tools, right? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so that's what we're talking about, is like reconnecting people to that innate consciousness where they can wake that up and want to heal their bodies on many different levels.
So let me ask you, Dr. Cousens, how can individuals tap into their consciousness for deeper healing?
Well, I'm a little traditional in the sense that we talk about meditation. I know people, and earlier on explored some of the kind of psychedelic and studied with some very interesting people doing the work, very beginning work, like Stanislav Grof, if you've ever heard of him. He did some of the original work with LSD in Esalen years ago. I mean, we're talking in the 1970s. And I saw that you could wake up and get an experience. And once you've had one experience, it moves. But that also wasn't so good for your brain. You know, things like LSD really seriously damage people's brains,
Hmm.
even one dose. So I kind of moved away from that. I said, there's got to be a healthier way to do this. And that's where we took people into deeper meditation and uh, the awakening of the what we call the Kundalini, the spiritual energy that way. So you awaken that force in the person. Everyone has a spiritual energy. Our society doesn't really support that. And it's also spiritual energy in relationship. It really couples generate spiritual, a certain spiritual energy. And those are things that we want to emphasize. You know, when I do couple therapy, it's like if you really don't have that connection, it's not going to be successful. So people have to share that spiritual energy too. So we want to evoke it. So the main way I evoke it is really with meditation and bringing that in. And then I have a teaching called the Six Foundations. And Six Foundations is eating 100% vegan and at least an 80% live food diet that stimulates and opens up what we call the nadis. So they have an internal flow of energy. We have 72,000 nadis, central shushumna, and things like that. But the point I'm making is it stimulates a healthy flow of energy so you feel like you're a superconductor of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you can't eat your way to God. I'm not saying that, but it makes it makes spiritual life far more accessible to people than when you're eating junk food and a heavy meat diet. It just what is, and I say that's true with 95% of the people who kind of wake up become vegans over time because that's where you just need that diet. Okay, so that's one. Two, you got to build up your prana, life force energy, pranayama, yoga. My wife's a tri-yoga teacher. I do yoga literally 6 days a week. Um, Tai Chi, Qigong, Reiki energy. I'm also Reiki master. So all these things build the life force. It's key for healing. Okay, then service and charity because you need heart opening. When people are doing real service and charity, it helps open the heart. And that doesn't depend on having to be in an intimate relationship, which is also heart opening. But you connect to the people you're serving. And then the fourth is working with a spiritual teacher that can help you kind of go deeper in that. Then meditation, and I'm going to say mantra repetition, which is saying the name of God in different ways over and over. So you're always keeping your mind on the divine. And then the sixth is the awakening of what we call the Kundalini, or in the Torah tradition, the biblical tradition, is the Ruach HaKodesh. So all those things are going on. And when you're doing that, it makes you much more naturally open to spiritual life.
Hmm.
It just happens. Okay. When you're eating junk food and doing things that aren't really raising consciousness, you know, robbing stores and doing that doesn't necessarily make you open to spiritual life. But okay, so that's way, and different people awake in different ways. There's no one way it works. Some people really work, you know, what we call karma yoga, you know, serving other people. It's very heart opening for them. They may not meditate, but they are doing that and it elevates them. So that's how the spiritual energy kind of gets awakened and guiding people into some of these that works for them. Because everybody's different. So what works for you, maybe what doesn't work for somebody else. What's going to inspire you to wake up? Other people like to be in nature, and that's how they feel that connection with the divine. So that's how it gets started.
So you have to wake up this spiritual state, this consciousness in yourself to begin the healing journey, is what you found.
No, it helps it.
Helps it.
It may be later on in your healing journey, once you've worked on your health, your well-being, so your mind is working right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there are a lot of people come to me, as a holistic physician, but also psychiatrist. Their mind is not working right. Either they've hurt themselves with drugs or different things. And so one of the things I do is help people rebuild their brains. Literally. I don't mean metaphorically. So we call that. There's a field that got started about 1973 called orthomolecular psychiatry, using vitamins and minerals and different things to rebuild the brain. It's a relatively new field, so I was involved in that close to the beginning of that work. So we have to rebuild the system, and then they're more open to, ready, I'm going to say, to be more spiritually awakened.
As we talk about the future of health, like how are you building that system and creating that system?
I look at all the elements of how a person is put together, and I see what's broken.
Mm-hmm.
And what needs to be repaired, what needs to be evolved, and what needs to help them open their heart, and all those things are playing a role.
Do you think that this can be done on a more of a community level, or do you think this needs to be attacked from like an individual level?
It can really be both. A community level can definitely raise consciousness. So in the 60s, I lived in different communes and ran a few communes, and clearly there's a group power that can raise the consciousness in a good way. It can really happen. And at the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center, we definitely focused on more of that, a collective consciousness arising. And if you look in history, you can degrade the collective consciousness, somewhat, which is going on a little bit in the United States, and in Western civilization, there's a degradation. I don't want to give it, whether it's purposefully or not, it's happening. And the whole idea is upgrading the consciousness. We all affect each other. We're all cosmically connected. And that's just what is. It's not like a belief. That's pretty well proven. And when we go from that, okay, we're all cosmically connected, then how do we raise our cosmic consciousness, our group consciousness? That happens in simple ways, I mean, this may seem really mundane, but it's actually really important. So I was a captain of undefeated Amherst College football team. Undefeated. Okay, now what makes you undefeated? It means there's a collective energy. Everybody's supporting everybody's energy. Everybody's helping everybody. There was a really group consciousness going on that this is what we're going to do. Do you see what I'm saying? And I use the football example because it's gross, okay? And you got a bunch of football players really loving each other. What? Who thinks of that? But actually, that was key to being undefeated.
Yeah.
There is that sense of collective oneness,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sports teams are a great example because everyone can relate to them, right?
Yeah.
In the United States right now, I feel like health is in, more of a crisis than it's ever been. So sometimes it can seem overwhelming, right? Like a lot of people are very sick. Like we're walking around the airports and it just seems like people are even confused and slow. And so it's I think just are instigating that, I don't know, that spark of like feeling good, or just, having one day where you're starting to feel good, right? Or you're eating healthy, you're taking care of yourself, you want to feel better and better. And I think you just have to work on a singular level and hold that example.
So there's two angles, but I think the individual example designed to inspire
Hmm.
the many is probably the real way, because otherwise it's more talk.
Yeah.
So a person needs to really, be the example of what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I just made a video showing me doing 1,600 push-ups.
Recently?
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And but the point is, I introduced it by saying, "Look, my chronological age is 81. Okay, and it's like you can do this. I'm doing more now than when I was 16 years old.
Yep.
I'm doing more now, really, when I was a Amherst College, football player, captain of the team, right? Uh, I was doing 70 push-ups, age 20. And here we are, 60 years later. And it's like, that's a really important statement because it says we can get stronger, better, and, really mind working even better with age.
Hmm.
So that little thing was meant to inspire people that at any age you can get better, number one, but you got to work on it.
Yeah.
You don't go from 70 to 1,600. I've done, by accident. And so it does require work. It does require effort. It doesn't just fall in your lap.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's a part of it. But individuals inspire individuals, and soon the group gets inspired and more people get inspired.
Yeah.
That's the key. So the key is for individuals to lead inspired lives, whatever they're doing. You know, I'm not talking about sports now. I'm just talking about leading an inspired life where you're like in awe and feeling that specialness about life.
I love that. Yeah.
And I'm not sure a lot of people know what that looks like. Again, we go look at the general population and people are not living up to their full potential. And some people don't want to, but some people also just don't know where to begin. But how would you encourage somebody who's maybe not ready to wake it up, that spiritual awakening, or tap into that consciousness without pushing it? Like, how would you just
Like, what is the first
identify it, or like get them intrigued so that they're maybe more open to the process?
Sure. It's a good question. Well, I want to put aside the word spiritual here. Let's talk about spiritual inspiration because that's without a religion connected to it, okay? So I lived in central Harlem for 3 years while I was going to Columbia Medical School. And we did a certain amount of community organizing. And the community got organized, but organized means connected, feeling good about each other, caring about each other, and creating not a bunch of separate individuals, but a collective whole doing things, improving people's lives. We had a school health program, and we had community actions going on that were all about uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get people working together, they get inspired. It just happens. I mean, I give you lots of examples. I even work with teenagers in different settings. You have to inspire them. I work with teen gang members in the south side of Chicago. No one was killed for 2 years. Okay, that's the bottom line when you're talking about south side of Chicago. Nobody killed anybody. Yeah, okay, the day I left, 8 people got killed. in
What?
a gang. Okay.
Didn't you
But that,
didn't you in Chicago also like create like a community garden and
yeah, we did a community garden. We got the city to give us a lot. Okay. Our group of, quote, juvenile gang bang members stopped a riot. A kid got hit by a bus, and then this happened, that happened. There's something, maybe 5,000 people out on the streets rioting, and we took the gang members, we took and calmed it down, and were very successful. Well, do you know how good that is for your self-esteem? Know that you did something really good. The head of the regional police came and it's like, how did you guys do that?
it's amazing. So
Because
transformative.
Yeah.
by the time the police got there, we had it under control, and they were in awe. And it's like, but it's called inspiring people.
That's amazing. I love those stories of transformation and inspiration.
Well, again, it's the way like we approach the individual and that that positive energy, that positive collectiveness, and instead of instantly going to the negative, but the way you're bringing these people together is inspiring and building and making individuals make better choices for a community. It's no longer like the I, it's the team and making the world a better place.
Exactly. And, I can give you other examples. We started the Petaluma People Service Center in Petaluma, California. We're working together. We had about 60 different projects, and everybody's doing it. I said, we'd have these big meetings. It would take up, 60 people in a meeting, and said, let's make a center. Let's consolidate, work it together. The group energy is happening. People are connected, and people get inspired. It's not complicated. I'll put it that way. You get inspired to do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's what life should be about, right? Is connecting with other people and knowing that people are there to support you. Unfortunately, a lot of times people don't feel like that, but I think, that's where we need to go. Obviously, we are here working together.
And it's inspiring each other, taking care of each other. We had a teen group I was doing, in Petaluma, California. And it was like the kids were working together, doing really nice things. I won't go into all the details, but it was just suddenly they're inspired and they're not juvenile delinquents. They're just out there doing really good things as a group. So the group consciousness is extremely important, but a positive group consciousness.
Yeah, I think that, we were all so, there's so much pressure on all of us during the couple years of the lockdown and the whole pandemic. It's an opportunity right now to really open up and transform and inspire each other in that way. I actually see that happening a lot more now than it was before.
Well, I think the people in COVID or going through the pandemic for the first time realized the importance of community. And they realized it was taken away from them.
Right,
And then they realized, oh my God, I actually need this. And then, it opened their eyes to what life looks like without the connection.
Yep. That's a good point.
Right. That's how you demoralize people. That's how dictatorships demoralize people.
Mm-hmm.
They keep everybody separate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit unfortunate that it takes us realizing what we don't have to realize what we do have and what we need and what we want. Again, I always say it's a sad example, but I wish that at funerals or at these celebrations of life, a lot of things that are said about these people who are now gone, why don't we say that to them when they're alive? How good would it make people feel if they were hearing these positive, amazing things about themselves on a daily basis?
The point is that it works. When you're nice to somebody, they get turned on and get nice to somebody else, and kind of like a chain reaction of good feelings going out there.
And it takes probably also feeling good inside yourself, right? And so that's where we all can have that individual role where we're taking the best possible care of ourselves emotionally, physically, spiritually, that we possibly can, so that we can be an inspiration. Otherwise we're just sick and broken down. We're not helping anybody.
There is a point here that a lot of people don't feel good about themselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And your little pat on the head, metaphorically, can start them to feel good about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So every time we're nice to somebody, we're actually increasing their biofield, so to speak, towards niceness and happiness. So just being nice is really a good thing. Just being a little friendly, a little loving, right now our society, and it's not by accident. This is unfortunate, but much more by design, to separate rather than bring together. And the little nice things make a huge difference.
No, one of my favorite quotes is, it may take you 1 second to say something nice to someone and it may live with them for their lifetime.
Yes, very good.
One keyword you keep bringing up that I just love the double meaning of, and I've realized this in this moment, but energy. And again, I think the energy that we accept, like the physical energy that we feel that inspires us, that makes us happy or connected to other people, gives us that feeling of individual energy, like makes us happy, makes us more alive. And I think that's a cool, like, even though it's the same word, it kind of has two different meanings, but it really much goes together.
Absolutely. And that's what we're talking about, is the little things that make us feel alive, but also make other people around us feel alive.
As someone who's traveled the world, lived in many, many places, are there any emerging health trends in different cultures that could influence a more global approach to the future in health?
Well, what we're seeing, which eventually will turn out good, is the degradation of the health system because it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
The whole allopathic view of the world, symptom focus rather than prevention, and all these things we're talking about. When we had the Petaluma People Services Center, we had groups helping each other, people of age, supporting each other, people with alcohol supporting each other. So the group process really helps people. So we can do that. And that's kind of a key thing. So little projects can build a lot of self-esteem for people. And again, I mentioned teenagers. You get a good project going, which I've done, and I had teen groups in Boston and also, as they say, in South Side Chicago and also in Petaluma. Same thing, okay, is you give something meaningful and they get turned on. It works. It makes them feel whole, okay? And this is true. When I was working with a few years, I worked with the gang next to the Blackstone Rangers, okay? And when I interviewed people, because I was trying to say, what's going on? I mean, we'd play basketball together, we'd do this. I mean, most of them, in fact, every single one of them I talked to privately, this wasn't in a group, didn't expect to live past their early 20s. Mm. Just, that's what happens. If you know Chicago, people are shooting each other all the time. So they didn't really feel a sense of purpose in life, because what's the point if you're going to get killed? Mm-mm. So what I began to do is give them a sense of purpose and focus where they could take another step rather than being stuck in the gang world.
What was that sense of purpose and focus?
Well, for each one, it was a little different. It was creating more happiness in your life, I'll put it that way.
And that looks different for everybody, obviously.
Correct. Doing what's important rather than just surviving with the gang energy. And that gave people meaning. How do you do something meaningful in your life that makes you feel good? Meaningful is more theoretical. That makes you feel good, usually is meaningful. And so that began to wake people up. And we, as I said, we did different projects besides, creating a massive riot breakdown, which was so good for their self-esteem. It was like, yeah, you guys did it. Very cool. Police couldn't understand it. I told you, it's like they were so proud of themselves. Well, how often do Black teenagers feel proud of themselves? Just think about that. Not often. Doing really good. Yeah, we had a garden, but stopping a riot, that's really good. So it was so good for people's self-esteem. They could see a future out of that.
Was there any element where you tried to get like families involved, or again, were you working with?
Not there. There weren't really families.
Okay.
In Boston, where I did a teen group, we definitely did family therapy, so to speak, with people and groups of families, with their teenagers. So we really did do that, but not in the South Side. It was not realistic. But there were families. These are white working class kids in Boston. I was definitely bringing individual family, but also kind of groups together.
Based on working with like younger generations, like what changes do you believe are necessary in health education for our future generations?
Get rid of the educational system and start again.
Entirely.
Well, that's a good point though. Like we can't be educated by the systems that are promoting a dysfunctional system, right? We do have to create a new educational system and a new health system and a new food system.
Right. The most effective educational systems I'm aware of really were homeschooling. It keeps the family closer together, but also homeschooling doesn't mean you don't have social connections, because you can have homeschooling and a few families working together and different things happening, but it brings meaning, because education today with teachers who are really not exactly prepared to be elevating personalities and teachers is really important. You know, it's a disaster because there are very few people wanting to inspire. When I grew up, that wasn't like that. I really had positive relationships with, my teachers.
Even I see in my kids' school, there's some amazing teachers that are really, really good. But I feel like even the younger teachers they're from this generation. They're so confused themselves, and it's evident in their teaching, and they're personally so confused that there's no effective education happening with some of them.
Right, and I think the answer to that is their educational system is run by people who are also confused.
Right.
Okay, but if you had inspired teachers, okay, that would inspire people to teach with purpose and clarity and have a whole different feeling rather than just a job. They don't pay teachers very much. So they're not attracting, higher quality people, but we need to pay the teachers more, but also upgrade the standards. So you're getting inspired people and inspired systems. The teachers union is not about inspiring. It's a whole different thing. So we need to have that kind of energy going into the systems. And I'm not sure that the private schools are, that much better. You can find good private schools. That's really important. But the whole idea of teaching as an inspiring way of life, it makes a difference.
There's some new systems being created where, like with the social media, and there's actually like new like online school and educational systems being put in place by inspired people. So maybe that's where, we want to put more emphasis.
I've heard some really good things about the online things and inspired online teaching systems. And that may make more sense,
Yeah.
because then you can reach out to more people and create a collective consciousness. You have to make your qualification as inspired person and as an inspired teacher, and they can reach thousands, over the internet.
Yeah, it could be used for to change the whole future of education and healthcare. And I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people in health too making big impacts where people are starting to change, right? Like to me, it seems like a lot of people, but that might just be me. But
We surround ourselves with
yeah, we
very
surround ourselves
intentional,
But I think
like-minded.
that in health, it's again about inspiring, about wanting to care, love yourself enough to want to heal yourself.
right.
So when we had our diabetes program, 3-week program, where a very high percentage healed from diabetes in 3 weeks, type 2. What we saw is the inspiration getting people turned on, getting people helping each other, but getting inspired to heal yourself. A lot of diabetics, what are diabetics told? It's incurable.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing you can do about it. You can slow it down. Well, that's just not true. And what my book, There's a Cure for Diabetes, showed, wow, we took some really sick people with average blood sugars of 260.
Wow.
That's very high. 100 is less than 100 is kind of normal. Not exactly, it's still a little high, but the point I'm making is 260 is an average. Okay, what happened? They all got healed, but the point more important is they got inspired and they inspired each other, and it works because it's not, you change it from pessimism to optimism, that we can really make this happen.
Right. Telling people that something is possible, right? Like we're not constrained. We're there's room for limitless healing and limitless thought and limitless action. Like we can do whatever we want. We're, as a whole healthy person, maybe not as a sick person, but as a whole healthy, strong person, I feel like the world is somewhat unlimited right now with a lot of the new technology that's
Yeah.
that we didn't used to have.
I'm going to just say that the other component of health is hard work. And people need to live a good lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
They have to eat good food. They need to exercise. They need to breathe. They need to have clean water. And these are all basics, all of which have been forgotten. They did a study of 47 nations, Western developed nations. U.S. is 47 out of 47, the lowest,
In health.
the worst health.
Yeah.
Wow. It's embarrassing.
60% of American adults have some kind of chronic disease. 60%. Those are disastrous statistics, but look at what goes on. The commercial foods and the health system is symptom. It's not really health. It's a sickness system. What if we do, like I'm going to say, the ancient Chinese, the ancient Essene, the whole idea is not to get sick. So you focus on being healthy, doing things that make you healthy, living a lifestyle that makes you healthy. And that's something everybody can learn. And, we went over those 6 steps, and it's like everybody can do it. It doesn't cost anything. I mean, how hard is that? But it doesn't make money for the pharmacies. It doesn't make money for the hospitals. It does make money for the doctors, you see. The whole idea is not to get sick. And the ancient Chinese model was you were paid to keep people healthy.
Yes. Sometimes I don't think people understand the hard work it does to stay healthy. Like I wake up early before anyone else, so I spend several hours in the morning on my own, health, and I put a lot of effort into it. And I think that's what people have to be willing to do, is really be sort of so protective of your health and put so much time and energy into it that there's no way anyone can take that away from you, right?
Yeah, and that's what I also, obviously do for myself, but teach is like, you got to do the work, which I said a little bit earlier. You got to do the work. If you're not doing the work, somebody's not going to give you a magic pill and make you better. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But to do that, you got to love yourself enough to heal yourself. That's the third time I said that. Okay, it's true. And you love yourself enough to want to heal yourself and stay healthy.
I think that's a common phrase in therapy, is like I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, you have to be selfish, and selfish isn't a negative thing, but I'm the same way. I wake up every morning and I do 2 to 3 hours of what I need to do.
And we text each other.
We text each other. I mean, you're the only person I'll talk to at like at 4 a.m. Most people aren't up anyways, but like that's my healing time.
Yeah.
And that's doing the work. And a lot of people come into therapy like thinking they're ready to do the work. And I guess sometimes they don't know what that means, but doing the work is finding out how to live a healthy lifestyle, how to love yourself, how to protect yourself so that the way the rest of the world's operating and running doesn't affect you on such a deep level that you start to struggle and suffer like the people around you.
There's another point that you just made me think about is that people who are working on their health need to work together collectively. Because if you're by yourself and the people around you saying, what are you doing all those silly things? What's the matter with you?
Yeah.
You need to find groups that share your same values of life and get supported, particularly in a place like the United States where things aren't united.
Right.
At this point.
United States where things are not united. That's why you left us.
But the point I'm making is when you're working with people who, like the two of you, collectively support each other, okay, that's very good. And more of focusing on groups supporting each other's well-being and health and so forth is the way to go to kind of break the model, because then you're creating a counter social model.
Yes,
that makes sense.
Yeah. In fact, it's I've never experienced that peace as strongly as I am right now. Actually, there's just so many people I feel connected with, and in this pursuit of like the highest quality of life and health possible, I feel really happy right now to have that collective support. It was a piece I've never had before.
It really does make a difference. People are social. We started in tribes. We did this. There's a social adhesion that people need. The research is very clear. They find that the research was done on women, and that rates of depression, if you weren't in a relationship, okay, you're 50% more likely to get depressed. And then they did more studies, and they showed it isn't just a male-female relationship, love, but actually friendship group type energies also work to keep people healthy and keep things like depression away. So it's very real. People are social. They need to connect. Connection is part of what it means to be a human in a very real way.
Yeah, and being in relationships where you're being inspired, where you're being challenged, where you're being supported.
It's the most amazing thing in the world.
And the research is there that supports that, is that there's a research on longevity, and the people who live the longest are people who are in couples. And then women who are by themselves, but women are more social, so there's more connection. They do second best, and also then there's divorced women. The people who do the worst are single males.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about longevity now. So which is a very important way of understanding this.
Yeah.
And men tend to isolate more. It's not good.
Which is interesting, and I don't have statistics or anything around this, but it's so funny because I think a lot of times men, especially right now, are the ones focused on, they're like, longevity, how can I be the best version of myself? And they're the ones suffering the most just by, again, isolating themselves, not knowing how to communicate their feelings or how to, and it's not their fault. Again, they were shunned from a very young age. Not everybody, but like I'm saying, like it's funny that they're the ones who are trend setting this, but they're the ones who are suffering the most.
They're missing that one piece.
They're missing that one piece.
They have high rates of depression and the highest rate of suicide.
Hopefully we can change that.
Yes.
The social structure needs to be changed so people are, you asked that question initially, so people are more in communication and more in interrelationship as a model for living. That would be maybe the number one thing. Of course, healthy leadership is pretty important too, but but a model would be much more collective beingness.
The future of health is collective beingness.
Mm-hmm. And inspired leadership.
Inspired leadership.
Yeah, because the groups have to have levels of leadership, but it's the collective energy that then allows them to grow, but at least in the right direction.
Amazing. I love it.
Well, Dr. Cousens, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Centered Presents the Future of Health. If people are interested in learning a little bit more about you or what you're doing, where can they find you?
They can go to Dr. Cousens Global, and they can also go to treeoflife.mn.co, which is my website.
drcousensglobal.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I'm glad we were able to do this.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Centered Presents the Future of Health. If you're interested in learning more, please visit us at drmollybrown.com or email us at media@drmollybrown.com.